Well, you're watching 13 News Now on 13 News Now Plus, and we are in a weather impact alert today as a powerful nor'easter is slamming the East Coast. That storm likely to cause major coastal flooding, beach erosion, along with that rain and potentially damaging wind. Right now, you're taking a live look at rough surf, those waves crashing onto the Virginia Beach oceanfront. You can just see how high and powerful they are at this point at 10 o'clock. We have a team of meteorologists that have been talking about this nor'easter for the last week or so, warning you about the potential effects. And people in Virginia Beach are preparing for the impacts of it as well. Right now, we have Alex Littlehales, who is live in Virginia Beach in the Lynn Haven Inlet. Alex, what are things looking like where you are and exactly where you are right now?
Hey, Eugene. Yeah, so as we have been mentioning all morning on our actual linear channel, we're now here on the stream. The big concern today from this nor'easter has been the fact that all of these low-lying areas, these neighborhoods, not just in Virginia Beach, but really across Hampton Roads, anything that is really at sea level, is going to experience potential major flooding throughout the day. So we've heard Taylor and Cheryl talk about this throughout the morning. So the number for high tide around 1 to 2 o'clock today is 6 feet of flooding, with a 2 to 3 foot inundation when it comes to the actual flood level that residences and neighborhoods could actually see, right? So this is one example of those neighborhoods. This is Cape Story by the sea. It is essentially a neighborhood that is off one of the offshoots from a waterway perspective, right outside of the Lynn Haven Inlet, right off of the Lynn Haven River. And it is between Shore Drive and essentially the main body of water that we know about Virginia Beach. And so this is typically an area that sees flooding, period, right? Even without a nor'easter off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina. So I'll actually have my photographer pull back out because I want people to see the level of flooding that we have right now as we are approaching 10 o'clock this morning here in Virginia Beach. So again, this is the kind of coastal tidal flooding that is to be expected in a neighborhood like this. And honestly, a lot of the residents and the folks here are used to this level of flooding, right? I mean, you can actually kind of see, if you can tell by the houses around me, that a lot of these houses are actually built on stilts, almost like they're homes on the Outer Banks, and so they're set several feet above the actual roadway. So a lot, these houses are used to water coming into their driveways, into their streets. So this isn't exactly new. But what is new is the fact that we're going to have a king tide cycle this afternoon, paired with the fact that the nor'easter is bringing those, again, elevated tide levels throughout the region. And so a neighborhood like this is potentially going to see flood levels that are reaching, feet and feet back into the actual streets, not just the actual areas that are closest to the inlet itself. So actually, if my photographer pans back out, I can see her from a distance. So essentially over my left shoulder is one of the waterways, an offshoot of the Lynn Haven Inlet. And so you can actually see that the water is starting to rise there. And that's going to be the story throughout most of the day, right? That water level is going to rise and rise and rise as we get closer to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock this afternoon. And so again, this is sort of the bare minimum of what we're going to expect today. But as we've been saying, this is the bare minimum, but we're going to see these flood levels rise even higher. That's why you can actually tell that there are a couple of elevated and heightened cars still parked on this side of the street. So I'm looking at a Jeep and a pickup truck, but for the most part, there's a lot of cars that are not in this immediate area because a lot of the neighbors have actually moved their cars more inland into the actual street closer to Shore Drive, again, trying to get those cars away from the area that there is anticipated to be flooding. So again, I have my waders on, but I certainly don't need waders. This is just sort of anticipatory, if you could call it that. Several inches of standing water here, but again, that's to be expected in a neighborhood like this. We're not going to see those king tide and nor'easter tidal levels until much later this afternoon, but I think this is a good representation to show people that this is sort of the starting point for what we're going to see today. We can already see those water levels from the water mainway behind me beginning to rise, starting to pull into the streets here. And this, again, is the main area of Virginia Beach that is of concern. The Lynn Haven Inlet, it is not necessarily ocean overwash from the Atlantic Ocean. It is the tidal flooding, particularly in these low-lying neighborhoods that are so close to the actual inlet. So again, just kind of doing our sweep and perimeter here as we continue to just kind of track conditions